For my final major project, I've decided to make a film about me, but there is something you need to know about me, is that I have autism. I hope I hope by the end of this documentary you found out a little bit more about me and a lot more about autism. I'm now talking to one of my classmates, V. How have you coped with your autism?
I don't really know because I was kind of born with it, so I've had it all my life. So it's difficult to kind of figure out how I coped with it necessarily because it's just something I live with and I don't really know any different. But I do try to avoid loud shops and busy places, situations that would cause me to have a shutdown.
What are the benefits of having autism?
I think my brain works in a way that makes it a lot easier to memorize information, and so that's quite helpful with school because I can just memorize a lot of facts. And I think I'm very passionate because I'm autistic.
Do you have any strong interests or hobbies because of your autism?
Yeah, I do get very obsessed with TV shows or books and different areas of interests. I've always loved like English and writing and languages.
What are the challenges of having autism for you?
I think I struggle a lot with small talk and talking to people, and so it makes it quite difficult to sort of, I don't know, communicate and work with people, and also because I get overwhelmed quite easily by lots of noise or having too many options, and so I tend to withdraw a lot and I struggle socially, I think.
Have you ever felt bullied for having autism?
Like, I've never had someone pick on me because I'm autistic, but I felt excluded from groups and kind of society, like groups of people and stuff, I guess, because I'm autistic and because I don't necessarily communicate in the same way.
How does your family or friends support you?
I think they're quite supportive. I don't think my family understands autism very much, and so they don't really understand what I mean when I say I'm struggling with things. But they try to support me, and my friends are always like really accommodating. Try to make sure that I feel comfortable, and yeah.
Does autism stop you from doing anything you like to do?
Um, Not really, because the situations it stops me going into aren't enjoyable for me. Being in loud, busy places isn't an enjoyable thing for me, and so it's not something I want to do. But I guess it stops me from like having the same experiences as like a lot of people my age because I can't communicate or deal with those situations. So
How do you find socializing and making friends?
it's difficult unless I can find someone who's like very good at communicating and very good at driving conversations, and yeah, it's I'm not good at it. So
What is it like with working in a group with other students?
uh, I find that easier because we're working on something and there's like a goal and we're all working and there's already a jumping off point for talking. It's more like just random small talk is not easy and I struggle with that. So
Does the work industry or having a job or making a CV intimidate you with your autism?
definitely it's quite difficult because a lot of the jobs available for people our age I can't really do just because of the way my brain works. And I don't like interviews and stuff like that are quite difficult. So
Thank you for agreeing to be part of my documentary. I am here with Claire Hill in Amersham College, who is an autism specialist teacher. She has agreed to be interviewed by me about autism for this documentary. Hello, Claire.
hello, Ryan.
How was autism first discovered as a diagnosis?
Well, it was first described in 1943 by somebody called Leo Kanner, and he lived in Baltimore in America, and that was the first time that it was documented.
how is someone with autism diagnosed?
The earlier somebody can be diagnosed, the better. Often it's picked up when children are very little by a health visitor, or schools often pick them up. Um, and then you would go to a paediatrician, a children's doctor, or a psychologist, who would do some testing, and produce a diagnosis if that's what was needed.
When we hear about autism spectrum, what does that mean?
Basically, it's called a spectrum because it is there's huge variation in characteristics and in severity of those characteristics. So it can autistic people can come from any economic background, any racial background. It doesn't discriminate, and everyone who is autistic is different from everyone else who is autistic. So that's why it's called a spectrum, because it's huge.
How many people in the UK are currently diagnosed with autism?
According to the National Autistic Society, their most recent figures about 700,000 in the UK. That's about 1 in 100.
What does your job entail?
Well, my job is to support children and young people with autism, autistic young people. So to try and make their learning more accessible, working on social and emotional understanding, communication, making clear communication, working on any sensory needs, anxiety, perhaps transitioning from one place to another. So, for example, from primary school to secondary school to college, college to university, and also working with that young person on their diagnosis, because understanding what being autistic means for you is really important.
How are you supporting me?
Well, I think we've done lots of work on emotional, understanding emotions and feelings and recognising those in other people as well as ourselves. But also you're going on to do an internship, which is really exciting. And so part of my role will be helping you with that transition out of college and into the workplace.
How different have you found your students over the years to be?
Hugely different. I've worked with children as young as 3 and as old as 26. So hugely different. And like I said before, because it's a spectrum, the range of need can be really, really varied.
What support do adults diagnosed with autism receive or need?
It depends on the person, but it might well be in adulthood working on independence, so whether that is supported living or living independently, whether that's support into work or some other activities.
Do I have to declare my autism diagnosis to any future employer?
No, you don't. It's entirely up to you. The advantage of telling your employer that you are autistic is that they are obliged to put in measures and make reasonable adjustments to make sure that you are supported at work, and that you are able to do your job. If you do declare it, then you are protected under discrimination laws.
What types of creative content have you watched or read in regards to autism?
There's lots of stuff on the BBC iPlayer. Chris Packham in particular is a huge advocate for autistic people, and he has a documentary called Inside Our Autistic Minds, and I think it's in several parts, and that's a really, really interesting documentary.
Claire, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure, thank you.
How have you coped with your autism?
I've coped with my autism by using various techniques, such as listening to music, watching some TV, taking deep breaths, and counting to 10, as they're ways of distracting me when I get stressed or overwhelmed.
What are the benefits of having autism?
The benefits of having autism are that I think differently, and when other people try a usual technique, I go for the unconventional, different method of things.
How does your family support you?
My family support me by explaining complicated and intricate things and breaking it down into simplified ways so I can understand it better.
Does anything stop you? Does autism stop you from anything you like to do?
Autism has stopped me from socializing because I find it difficult to socialize a lot because I have to start a conversation, how to keep this conversation going, let the other person have their say of talking, and then has to repeat it again and again. So it's a bit difficult.
What support from other agencies do you have for your autism?
I get support from an agency called Talkback. They help me with independent living skills and life skills, and they help me embrace that autism is not a weakness; it's a strength.
What are the challenges of having autism for you?
The challenges of having autism for me are I can't plan uh, things well in advance, and it I usually leap before I look. So that's what my autism usually causes me to do.
How do you find socializing and making friends?
I find socializing and making friends really difficult because when there's a crowd of like over 30 or 40 people or a group per se, a small group, it's really hard to engage and join those people because it's quite intimidating and you have to start the conversation and make it interesting for them let let you in and stuff.
What is it like working in a group with other students?
I find it really helpful because I get their ideas and input, and it's not always my ideas, it's other person's perspectives.
Do you have any strong interests or hobbies?
I like swimming, football, going to the gym, listening to music, and watching a lot of TV and films.
Does the work industry or having a job or making a CV intimidate you?
It does intimidate me because a CV, you have to be interviewed by someone, and I get really stressed and anxious when someone interviews me. And then in a job, I have to try and impress my employer and boss, so I always get nervous and stuff trying to impress the boss. Otherwise, it'll look bad on me.
Have you ever felt bullied for having autism?
Yes, I get picked on because I was quite quiet and shy and not be able to talk to others. So I was really a bullseye target for that.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
You're welcome. I am here with my older brother, who is with me today to answer questions about my autism. Aaron is a medical doctor.
Nice to be here, Ryan.
Do you remember when Mum and Dad told you I had autism?
I don't remember the exact moment, but I think over time they gradually introduced the idea and explained more to me as we learnt together.
Did Mum and Dad explain what autism is to you and when you were a child, and what did they say make sense to you?
I think at the time it probably didn't make complete sense. There was a lot of learning as we went along. Um, the definition of autism is very widespread, or at least it was at the time. I think there's a lot more understanding right now. So my understanding of it wasn't at the best. I think when you were diagnosed, I was around 9 or 10 years old. So by that point, yeah, I didn't have the best understanding, but we learned as we went along.
Did my autism have an impact on you growing up?
Yeah, I think truthfully, yes. You have to learn to make adjustments, make further considerations. Being the older brother, I had to make sure that in certain environments and situations that things were like appropriate and that you were able to be comfortable in those situations. And then as we went along, those things became a lot easier for you, and I had to make less adjustments over time.
Have you met other people with autism, including your medical patients?
Yeah, quite a few. Even before I did medical training and started working, all the clubs and activities that you used to do through organizations like Autism Society and Action for Children, we met lots of people and individuals like yourself. And then I also used to help out at your sports clubs, so swimming and football, if you remember. So through that, I was exposed a lot, and I think that was really beneficial for me, both for learning as well as be able to spend more time with you.
What resources did you use to understand autism?
Specifically when I was younger or later on?
Both.
So when I was younger, not too much. It was more of I learnt from mum and dad, or if they were provided anything, then I was a beneficiary to that. I didn't go out looking for the information myself, because back then it wasn't as readily available. But then, obviously, as I went through secondary school, and then moving on to medical school, my textbook started talking about autism a lot. I did a project in sixth form about autism for personal interest, so I learned a lot through that. And so the resources themselves are mainly internet-based, through the organizations I mentioned earlier, so Autism Society in particular. Lots of charities have really good information that's available to everyone.
How much support and training did you receive about autism?
Yeah, not much initially. I wish I had more. It would have made learning all these things a lot easier as opposed to learning on the fly. Yeah, I wouldn't say much in the ways of physical, like one-on-one learning. I didn't get much. Mum and dad got a lot more because they were able to get in touch with the relevant people. But being in school, having my own activities and everything I had to do, I didn't have much in the ways of training sessions or anything like that.
Do you feel like you had to learn to communicate with me in a different way due to my diagnosis?
Absolutely, yeah. There are, obviously things are a lot different now, but back then, yeah, you just have to be a bit more accommodating, a bit more understanding of the way in which you were thinking, the way you conceptualize things and rationalize things, the way I had to explain things. Even now, as we've discussed recently, is I've had to make adjustments to that, but definitely a lot better now in comparison to back then.
Do you perceive my life to be more challenging because of my autism?
I think you've made a massive improvement, and you've developed incredibly from where you were to where you are now. I would, back when we first found out, obviously I didn't know much back then, but then as I became more aware, thoughts crept in about how you acclimatize and adjust, but now I have very few concerns because of how well you've done. There are little niggling thoughts about little things here and there, but that can't be helped. I'm an older brother. But yeah, in general, things might get a bit difficult, but you've got a good support network to help you out.
What strengths do you think my autism gives me?
Oh, lots. As we've talked about before, you have this uncanny ability to remember everything. and I don't know how you do it. And whether that's down to autism or whether that's just your natural ability, you're very focused. And when you're interested in something, you'll never forget it. And so even with all the film and the media that studies that you were doing and your interest in all of those things, that's one trait I wish I had. Um, so yeah, I think that is in particular one of your more powerful traits.
Thank you for agreeing to be part of my documentary, Aaron.
No problem.
I am here with my parents, who are here with me today to answer my questions about autism.
Yep.
Yeah.
What symptoms or behaviors did you notice about my autism?
Initially, we didn't notice any difference, but it was probably when you were meant to be speaking, so around 18 months to 2 years, you didn't speak or communicate like other children. But then what we were told is boys tend to talk later. So we weren't too worried about, well, I wasn't. But then probably when you were about 3.5, we realized that there may be issue because you seem to be getting more withdrawn. Is that right, Jenny?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
When did you decide I had to go see a specialist doctor?
The age of 4.5 years, because even at that point you were still not talking, and you were not engaging with other children of your age, who obviously you had another Sharik who was talking and doing stuff, when you were not saying anything. So that's when we had to decide to see a specialist.
Also, I think the preschool or nursery was nursery said that they had concerns for your speech and language, and they highlighted it. So with that, we looked into getting you on the system, but we couldn't get in.
No,
We
it was a long wait. So instead we went private and got a diagnosis.
Yeah, we got a diagnosis for you privately.
How did you feel when I was diagnosed?
Devastated. What else? Because you don't expect that, isn't it, for your own child? The not problem. Some of the issues was that everyone has an opinion at that time. So everyone would tell you, he'll talk, he'll grow out of it, he'll do whatever. And also there's less awareness on autism and special needs. That
yes, that's right. Yeah.
What did you notice about me or my behavior before I was diagnosed?
You tended to be very introvert and didn't make eye contact.
And then you are flapping your head all the time,
You had little mannerisms that
of
sort of told us that you may have had issues, but also the fact that you didn't engage with others, although you grew up with them. So Sharik, who's 5 days older than you, and Tara, who's about 6 months older.
Yeah.
So all three of you grew up together. We used to holiday together, but when it came to the time when the others started talking, you were late, and also maybe it was frustration on your part. You seem to be getting more withdrawn.
Yeah, and then
Before I was diagnosed, were you aware of what autism is or was?
Yes and no. We've seen the movies, but didn't understand it because it had no direct bearing on our lives. But obviously, when you have someone who has the condition
in your family,
you learn quickly, and you have to cater for it.
Do more research and find out and educate yourself more about what autism is. So,
have you ever had previous experience with people with learning disabilities?
I have, but
yes.
at that time, I don't think they considered it autism, but it was one of my cousins had special needs, and one of your granny's cousins also had special needs. But I don't think they didn't have a diagnosis at that time, so they wouldn't have known it was special autistic traits.
Or learning difficulties they
difficulties.
didn't have, yeah.
What resources or organizations did you use to understand autism?
The National Autistic Society. Then also there was a magazine called the Autism File from USA that was very helpful. It was a monthly magazine that came out, and that was quite useful. And
Early bird something.
yeah, and then we also went on the early bird program, which was both of us, which was a 3-month program, 3 months program that we went on. That was very useful.
That was meant for parents of children with special needs.
Yeah.
So to learn about how to cope, how to help.
Yeah, and also the local community places where they had the autism societies, the local hubs, they were helpful as well.
What is it like living with a relative who has autism?
Challenging. It is one of those things. Your brother is challenging, and he's normal. So it's one of those things you can't, for day-to-day living. The difference between you and Aaron, you need
That extra bit of help with
not only help but also direction. So, for instance, I need to tell you explicitly what to do. Yeah. Because you don't naturally pick up certain things. So a lot of the behavior is learned. So your thought things that then you can carry on with day-to-day living.
Just like reminders, just to support you. Yeah.
What are the positive traits of autism that you noticed?
Positive traits, your attention to detail is unbelievable. Too much sometimes. But it's a good trait, but it can be used positively, say for certain jobs and the like, where attention to detail is really important. So it could be a very positive thing that you have, the attention to detail.
What part of my autism do you find most challenging?
My part, I have to answer all the questions. I don't know about mom.
Sensory issues, I would say. And then also, what should I say? Mood swings. And yeah.
I think, one of the things that you face is that your energy levels change a lot during the course of the day. So if you had a challenging day in college and come home, we know you're shattered. So we leave you to it to recover before we even talk to you, because sometimes we can't get anything out of you. Obviously, you start the day bright, but course of the day you have to do things in college or whatever you're doing that drains you, for a better word.
Yeah.
And come evening time, you're spent. So that's the time you come and, your me time. We don't get involved, we let you.
Also, I think noise sensitiveness, that's also there, isn't it? You don't particularly like very loud noises. Is it, Ran? Is that right?
Yeah, you can't talk.
I'm concerned about my future because I have autism.
It is going to be challenging, but I'm sure you'll cope because you're in the right place. I think you're doing a great job with this course, and subject matter that you've chosen for your project is quite challenging. Very brave of you to do it. and I'm sure you'll do well in life
Yeah, as
with
long
a
as
bit
you
of help. But once you get over that, and also
making friends
make
and
you get your self-confidence up. I think at the moment you just don't have any self-confidence, so you need to build that up.
Have I found it difficult to make friends?
Yeah,
yes,
very much
most
so.
definitely.
It's a matter of time. I think it's just that
But you're
if
getting better, if I
yeah, I
may
think
say.
what happens is if you meet people now, you're more likely to make friends than people you knew earlier on in your life, because I think unfortunately there is a bit of stigma with people with special needs, and so it's a bit more challenging unless those people are more understanding. So when you meet people for new, they see you as you are. They don't know, there's no label to say that you've got special needs or anything, and it's up to you to make those friendships.
And I think in the recent past you've done well in engaging with people and trying to talk to people and all of that. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll do.
You will do well.
You will do well.
Thank you for agreeing to be part of my documentary.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Well, that's me. I hope you've understand what it's like to be me. You may still have one question, and that question might be what I'm going to do next. But I do hope that people will try and understand that I don't always see the world in the same way as them. But I hope that everyone will support me and achieve the things I want to do.